Welcome in, everybody. JT from Raiders HQ. As we kick off the day here on the flagship of the Silver and Black, this is Raider Nation Radio, 9:20 a.m. You can get us on LV Sports Network, the Raiders mobile app. In about 30 minutes, we'll go to the live stream. The live stream on YouTube. Please subscribe for free so you'll be able to check me out live in this palatial headquarters of the Raiders, which I'll be spending a lot of time coming up here this season. A lot of good announcements, a lot of good shows, new things to tell you about here in about a week as we get going. So here's what's going on today. We're brought to you by Modelo, the fighting spirit of Modelo, our proud partner, Modelo. On Friday, a bucket of Modelo's, our Modelo Fridays. We'll start it a little bit early this week. Modelo, proud partner of the show. So I am currently in the production meeting with the head coach, and we do that before the game, and the game is tomorrow. So we have our broadcast team, radio and TV, in that meeting. So I'm going to start in about 30 minutes with the live stream, so you'll be able to see that. But in the meantime, we wanted to get you some content here and get this thing going. Then we'll have some guests that'll join us live. I'm looking for a player today. As they tell me, they're going to try to help with that, depending on today or tomorrow. And then tomorrow we have the game at Allegiant Stadium against the 49ers. Wow. The 49ers, a lot of 49er fans out there. You know that, Raider Nation. Wear black. Black out the stadium because you're going to see Niner jerseys there, too. They're just too close. And they also love coming to Vegas. So you know that story by now. So I want to get into a lot of things here. Let's get rolling, and let's talk about so far the preseason and where we're at in the preseason. And I was thinking last night as I was doing my other show that where are the Raiders? Where are they in the preseason? Are they great? Are they good? Are they average? Are they below average? I think everybody has different opinions on where the team is. It's very hard to gauge where a football team is in the preseason because the preseason has changed tremendously since I got into the business. And then with all the alumni, the alumni are in town. Their kickoff party is tonight, which I'll be at, which I'm looking forward to. The kickoff party's tonight, and they're going to the game in the Win Club. They'll be on the field at the Win Club, usually come out on the field during the game. And then Friday, the whole group, big group, is going to the Aces game. So Mark Davis is rolling out a lot of entertainment, food, great times for the alumni and their guests, and that'll be coming up here. But back to where the Raiders are at. Where do you think the Raiders are at with where they need to be? Because as we've seen, this has been a particularly bizarre offseason, not for the Raiders, but the entire NFL. I think most teams now are more interested in the joint practices against other teams, more so than the games, and they want to protect players and keep players healthy going into the regular season. And as I've been talking, the Raiders need to peak. They need to peak for the Miami Dolphins. They have to play a great game. We finally get a home opener. The schedule is really tough this year. We get a chance to open up, Raider Nation, the season with a win, and it's going to have to be a great performance. So what Clint Kubiak is doing is this is the final dress rehearsal. A lot of the backups will play. I'll get to Fernando coming up here in a little bit. But you want to see these players compete for a roster spot. Then you want to get them ready for film study and practice and specifically game plan Miami and how to beat Miami before the Raiders take a short road trip to take on the LA Chargers. So what have we seen so far in the preseason? 2 games. The Raiders split their first 2 preseason games, falling to Arizona 27-14 at Allegiant Stadium before that rallying win last week on the road to Houston 22-20. In the first game, Kirk Cousins with the opening drive, early touchdown pass to Michael Mayer, and tied the game on the Fernando Mendoza 6-yard touchdown pass to Jack Besh. Arizona controlled the second half. Mendoza completed 10 of 16 passes for 97 yards and a touchdown. And Mike Washington Jr., 63 yards on 6 carries. That was a good game, but it was a loss, but it was more about Fernando. So then the whole national media picked up on Fernando and how he played. Then the Raiders went to Houston. I was with them that week from Monday through the game late. We didn't get back till Friday. Long week in Houston, and the Raiders erased a 20-3 halftime deficit, scoring 19 unanswered points in the second half. That was a great win. A lot of emotion. Team needed to win that game. It was the first win of Clint Kubiak's career as a head coach, even though it was preseason. That was important. Clint Kubiak spent a lot of his life there, when his dad was the coach of that team, it was important. Dylan Lobby was able to play really well, the rushing touchdown. I thought overall we saw some really good performances in that game. I think everybody was excited with the way the Raiders played overall, and I was excited. I thought the Raiders played really hard. Dari Ogunbowale, say that again. He scored, and he got going. You could see more of him tomorrow night, and Aiden O'Connell was fantastic on that final drive. He scored on the 1-yard sneak with 14 seconds to go. Check out this stat. Raiders totaled 400 yards, 159 rushing, and shut out Houston after halftime. That's not bad, even though the 2s and 3s were playing in the game. Same thing for Houston. Houston started their ones offense. Devin Lafayette sealed the win with a late interception. And as I was in the tunnel after the game, saw the emotion of the team, the coaching staff, that was important. If you believe in the whole concept of building a football team, which I know you do, that was important. But the preseason has been about the national media coverage of Fernando Mendoza. So let me go back with Fernando and kind of put a bow on everything ahead of this game where he should get a lot of reps. He's wearing number 15. He got the blessing from Tom Flores and paid respect to Coach Flores. Tom Flores told Paul Gutierrez on Raiders.com, quote, "He deserves my blessing. He can make every throw. He can make the plays. What can he do? He does it all. He's fun to watch. Plus, he's a good-looking kid like me." All right? Coach Flores getting that in there. Then Fernando, listen to this quote. I mean, there's been a lot of quotes from Fernando. This could be the best one. Fernando told Paul G., quote, he's more handsome than me. But it speaks to the testament of once a Raider, always a Raider, of how involved the alumni are. And I'm so blessed to be a part of this organization. I can't thank Coach Flores enough. I'm so blessed. I had a good college career. I haven't done anything in the NFL. So for him as an NFL legend, a Raider legend, to give me permission to wear the number 15 and represent Raider Nation, the silver and black and him all in one, it's an eternal blessing. Every single day, I'm going to have a commitment to excellence to make sure I live up to that standard. Wow. What an epic quote by Fernando Mendoza. It seems like everything he said is well thought out. It's mature. He's really studied the organization, the history of the organization. It's incredible. So I've been saying from the beginning when they signed Kirk Cousins that he would start because it made sense. I'm fine if Fernando starts. I think a lot of people are, but it makes more sense for Kirk Cousins to start. Cousins has 6,000 NFL pass attempts. If you add in regular season, postseason, and the preseason, Fernando just has 31 total in his short NFL career. Cousins gives the Raiders the best opportunity to win because of his experience. Now, we've been getting a lot out of Clint Kubiak lately. And I want to talk about Coach and what he's been saying because he's been giving us some clues to what his philosophy is overall and how he's going to be able to go out and build this team. And he's building this team in the preseason. So let me start by saying he said how Mendoza can be more consistent. Quote, reps. I know it's a short answer, but that's the truth. He's got to get more reps, and he's going to get the reps clearly in the preseason. He said on getting Mendoza reps if he's not playing in season. We have experience as coaches on developing guys when they're not starting a game, if they don't start a game. So it's staying early, leaving late. It's using some technological tools at your disposal. But it's really a lot about Coach Mike Sullivan spending some early mornings and long nights with Fernando and Aiden O'Connell. But then you can build in young guys' reps into your practices. There are things you can do. It's never as good as getting the reps in practice, but it's the best you can do with what you got. So he's trying to tell you that they're doing everything they can to get Mendoza's hands on the ball in practice and in sessions. Now, Coach Kubiak said on not declaring starters, quote, I just don't think it benefits a player to know that they have a spot secured. And if there's always a little bit of uneasiness about that, that benefits the whole team, the player and the team. I'm good with that. I mean, we know who's going to start. We know Max Crosby's going to start. We know Colton Miller's going to start, but everybody else doesn't need to know that they're going to start. Why? This is the coach's philosophy. Speaking about Max, Clint Kubiak said on him not playing in the preseason, quote, all players need reps. I'm not going to be giving him any, though. So Max is shut down in the preseason, but he's practicing like a beast. He always does, and Max is ready to go, and that's fine. Now, the big thing that I think he said that, I don't want to say it's alarming or concerning, but you can figure it out. On the receiver room after the game in Houston in the joint practice, he said, quote, "Yeah, I learned a lot in that we have to get a lot better very fast. That we took a step backwards. Doesn't mean we can't go forward, but right now we're trying to find someone that is accountable and can help us on Sunday. Still looking." Wow. What does that mean, still looking? Well, let me give you my opinion. Still looking could mean that there's a receiver out there that's going to get cut on a better team and a better, deeper wide receiver room that's going to fit with the Raiders. I don't know who that player is. But if you look at most of the teams around the league that take 5 to 6 receivers, if a team's 6th receiver gets cut and doesn't go to the practice squad, is it worth John Spytek bringing him in to be the 3rd or 4th receiver for the Raiders? Maybe. Maybe it is not good. Maybe they need another receiver to come in here from another team. We'll find out by Sunday when they make the cut downs. So he's learning that these guys got to step up a little bit more. And then on the defensive backs versus Houston, quote, "And as far as the secondary overall as a defense, I thought we took a step forward. I think we got a lot of work in the joint practice covering some new guys, and those guys need another game under their belt against San Francisco to continue to get better." Okay, that's important because this is a young secondary. Other than Eric Stokes, when it comes to the corner position, they need work. They need a lot of work. All right, let's get to some of the other storylines of the preseason. Positives, Mike Washington Jr. His 53-yard versus Arizona is the longest in the preseason in 2026, and he's averaging nearly 8 yards per rush. What? 8 yards, 7.93 yards per carry. That's tops by any running back in the preseason. He also posted that 33-yard run against Houston. So that's a pretty big deal. Mike Washington Jr. playing well. How many other players do you say to yourself are playing well? I don't know. Is it Caleb Rogers? Is it Tonka Hemingway? But there's one we know that is exceeding expectations in Mike Washington Jr. So we're going to have this final preseason game tomorrow. And then August 30th, the 53-man roster deadline at 3 p.m. Pacific. And then it gets interesting. August 31st, the waiver claims processed and the practice squad begins forming. And we're going to see how that plays out. So I'm going to be talking to Matt and Eric on the broadcast on the potential teammates that could get cut. And what's it like? I mean, Matt Millen was a GM in this league and a 4-time Super Bowl champ. Matt's been in the room when you got to cut players. And Eric Allen's been on the roster of teams where some of his teammates got cut, who he was pretty tight with. So they'll have a good perspective on that when we talk about that during the game. And then the Raiders have a top waiver priority. How about this? For the upcoming waiver period following the 53-man roster cuts, the Raiders would have first crack at any waive player they choose to claim. Oh, boy. Well, that's what happens when you win only 3 games. You win only 3 games, and the Raiders are at the top. They have the first pick overall, Fernando Mendoza, and they're first in line for waivers. That could be that might be something, now that I think about it, is critical for the Raiders to take advantage of that. That's like having a lottery ticket. You have the first crack to get any player in the league on waivers. You got to use that. Wow, that's interesting to me. That is really interesting to me. When it came to that, the Raiders hold the top waiver priority because they tied for the league's worst record with Tennessee, Arizona, and the Jets, but held the number 1 pick in the draft by winning the tiebreaker based on strength of schedule. Well, they have a pretty strong schedule again this year. After week 3, the waiver order switches to the current season standings, with the team holding the worst record getting the highest priority. So, wow, this is a big story. I mentioned the schedule, the upcoming schedule, a tough AFC West and a very demanding schedule. Las Vegas has the 7th toughest strength of schedule. How's that possible, having the worst record in football? They have the 7th toughest schedule. That's because they're facing 7 playoff teams from last year. making early progress really difficult to sustain. They're going to have to play great football to manage the schedule. We've talked about this. But I think when you look at the offseason and what they did in regards to spending, will it pay off? Major additions, including Kwity Paye, Quay Walker, Nakobe Dean, Teron Johnson, Tyler Linderbaum, and Jalen Nailor. Wow, how about that? And I've said this throughout the preseason and the offseason on this show that if John Spytek didn't go out shopping and he didn't go out and get these players, where would we be without Kwity Paye, Quay Walker, Nakobe Dean, and Teron Johnson? Tyler Linderbaum, highest paid free agent center ever. And Jalen Nailor, I think, has got to prove himself. But those are major additions and pretty good players. I think that's a really important aspect. So a lot of fans are wondering in the national media, is this a rebuild versus the expectations of winning? I want to win every game. I don't use the word rebuild. I don't believe in it, especially in the NFL where the Patriots went from 4 wins to the Super Bowl. Stop with this rebuild talk, but some people are just going to use it. It's a natural habit to use the word rebuild. I choose not to, and I hope you respect my opinion. You can have whatever opinion you want. I'm not talking rebuild. I want the team to win. The Raiders are clearly more talented than they were a year ago, but outside projections still view the Raiders as a rebuilding team with modest win total expectations, around 6 wins, 6.5. That's not a good season. I've been doing this almost 30 years. 6 wins sucks, but it's better than 3, and it's probably not going to be 10 or 13, so you're going to have to reset your expectations on what this team could do. I think with Clint Kubiak, they're trying to figure out their offensive identity. Thank God the Raiders dodged a big one with Ashton Jeanty with an ankle instead of a knee. You got Brock Bowers, Trey Tucker, the revamp offensive line. And Kubiak's going to bring a lot more structure and efficiency. Thought that Chip Kelly was supposed to be bringing structure and efficiency, and it didn't work out. And then it comes to Rob Leonard's new defense. What are we going to see with this defense? The first-time defensive coordinator will lean on Max Crosby to set the edge and the tone and get after the quarterback as they shift to a more flexible 3-4 built on speed, pressure, physicality, and versatility. I'm all right with that. I'm a 4-3 guy. I like the 4-3. If they want to 1-3-4, I think they're just going to run a bunch of different schemes. Robbie Leonard's told everybody they're very vanilla in the preseason. Don't expect much. Don't expect much tomorrow night against San Francisco. Why would you? I mean, why would you expect anything? They don't want to show anything for Miami, and I'm okay with that. They added some new playmakers with range, but the unit must prove that they can be healthy, and they got to be able to hold on for the whole season. They got to be able to be healthy. And then a couple of housekeeping items I want to talk about. The Raiders made a $25 million donation this week. Let that sink in. $25 million to help build Nevada's first standalone children's hospital. That's incredible. That's incredible. The gift was led by Raiders owners Mark Davis, Egon Durbin, and Michael Meldman, each of whom contributed $5 million towards the development, and the Raiders, which committed an additional $10 million. Quote from Mark Davis, the Las Vegas Raiders are making our largest philanthropic commitment in franchise history because we are dedicated to building a healthier future for kids in Nevada. We want this gift to remind children and families that they have our team backing them and the support of the entire Raider Nation. Wow. You ever hear that term, put your money where your mouth is? For those who have been critical of Mark or the organization or the wins and losses, which is fair, please understand this commitment compared to what other owners do in other sports. I mean, we're talking about Mark Davis being one of the most generous owners that we've seen in sports in a short period of time. The hospital, located at the UNLV Harry Reid Research and Technology Park, will be the first of its kind in Nevada, anchoring a new future for kids and families across the state, delivering comprehensive, high pediatric care. 828,000 square foot standalone children's hospital will be located on 33 acres of a campus and feature 180 patients bed. This is a monster with room to grow. It will provide advanced emergency services designed specifically for children and a full spectrum outpatient center alongside inpatient and specialty care. Congratulations on the entire Raiders ownership group and the Raiders for pulling this off. This is big time. This is legit. This is incredible. And Mark Davis said, quote, "It's always about giving back to the fans." In regards to the stadium, there's going to be a bit of a stadium remodel, which I think is necessary because of what Elon Musk is doing with the Vegas Loop. You got to understand, this is about the Super Bowl. Not so much in Allegiant Stadium, of course, but the Super Bowl coming. So with the Vegas Loop going underground, and there's going to be a station for people to get in and out of the stadium and get to the airport and get back to the casino corridor. When you say, why wasn't that initially part of the plan? It wasn't ready. It wasn't ready. They weren't putting that aside, and that area they can easily develop on. It's costing a lot of money, but the Raiders are making a lot of money. Remember, Allegiant Stadium earned the top ranking, the number one ranking for NFL venues and stadium in a lot of categories, including food in the USA Today poll, and the economic impact has been tremendous. According to the Las Vegas Raiders Impact Report for last year, 2025, which was released here in January, 62% of the visitors coming to Vegas specifically for a live sporting, music, or entertainment event at Allegiant Stadium, resulting in an estimated $1.1 billion, that's with a B, in economic impact. I mean, come on, everybody. Build it and they will come. How would you like to be on the wrong side of that story? The members of the media who literally said, and there wasn't many of them who did it, but there were a few that said they shouldn't build it, they shouldn't come, the Raiders shouldn't be here. And I'm not talking about the Oakland fans and that. I understand the Raiders never wanted to leave Oakland. There was a lot of reasons why the Raiders left Oakland, but no one can debate the economic impact now and what it's done for the stability of the franchise. Now they got to win games. No matter how much money the stadium's printing and all that, you got to win games. Now Allegiant Stadium will host the 2027 College Football National Championship game and the 2028 Men's Final Four and a Super Bowl coming up. So that's going to be really big. And UNLV now has a home to play their games, and they got a game coming up here, a really big one against Memphis. And remember, the CONCACAF Gold Cup, Pac-12 championship game, Las Vegas Bowl, SummerSlam with the WWE, and all the great concerts that we've seen along the way. So this was a big week, a really big week for Allegiant Stadium. All right, so when we come back, we'll go live on our YouTube stream. We should have some guests, Levi Edwards, whoever I can bring up from this meeting with Coach Kubiak and a couple of players, and get back to doing the live radio show. You know, I do a lot of radio. Yesterday I did 6 hours. 6 hours of radio yesterday solo. And believe me, I didn't talk to anybody. I talked to Clay a little bit because Clay's a radio host. And 6 hours yesterday is about as long as I could go. It's about as long as I can go. 6 hours is a lot. A quarter of the day I spoke on radio. And it's not football season yet. So I'm looking forward to football coming. Hey, Bishop Gorman, congratulations, man. I got the cover of the Las Vegas Review-Journal here from Sunday, Saturday edition. The Gales get it done. And they were able to come up with a big, big win over St. John's Bosco. They got a huge game coming up with the Florida team coming up. They have to win. You can't get up for a game that big and then come down. So I'll touch on that hopefully here a little bit. And then we'll get ready, and I'll tell you what the coach told me coming up on the other side. Hey, yesterday Roger came over from Steiner's, a Nevada-style brew, and they invite you to play the best tavern, keno, and video poker in Vegas. And their promos are rolled out all the time to maximize your gaming dollars, and their promotions are weekly for free play bonuses, a chance to win branded prizes, big money for all their jackpots every week. It's a 24-hour establishment. Rotating draft beers, the best appetizers in town, and they support the Raiders, the Knights. He's a proud partner of the Aviators, as they're all trying to make history here in Vegas. Steiner's, the Nevada-style pub, at 8410 West Cheyenne, 1750 North Buffalo, and Las Vegas Boulevard and Windmill. Steiner's. I love this place. We're excited about that proud partnership and everything we're doing with Roger there. That was 25 minutes of uninterrupted content on the Raiders preseason coming into this game against the 49ers. I have my flipboard for calling the game, and I'm looking at the Niners. Brock Purdy, Kyle Juszczyk, Christian McCaffrey, Mike Evans. Not all of them are going to play. We don't know who's going to play, but not many of them. George Kittle, hell of a player here. Trent Williams, one of the best offensive linemen ever. They got a good team. They got good players. This Deshaun Stribling's playing well in the preseason. Debo is back. Debo is back with this team. But, man, the Niners made a lot of news this week, and all bad news because of their owner and the situation Jed York got into in East Palestine. Got that right, Ohio. Wow, what a story that was. So when we come back, we'll go live on YouTube. If you subscribe, you get the alert. It comes here at the bottom of the hour. It'll pop up on your phone. It'll pop up on your YouTube. And it's all for free at JT the Brick YT as we continue on. Clay Baker will join us, Levi Edwards, and my opinion of what I just heard from the head coach heading into the game tomorrow night. Live from Raiders headquarters coming up momentarily. JT, this is Raider Nation Radio.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show, brought to you by The Black Hole. Become a member of football's most notorious fans.
First and 10 on the Raiders 34. Bo Nix under center with a play fake. In the pocket, looking to throw, and he's sacked back at the 39-yard line. He fell into his offensive lineman, Max Crosby, with his hands on top, so he will get credited for the sack.
All right, JT with you, and we are now live. Just left early the Kirk Cousins meeting. So Kirk Cousins is meeting with us right now, and I was there for about 10 minutes of it, and that was fantastic. We had a one-on-one with Clint Kubiak, the head coach of the Raiders, for a good half hour. It was Clint Kubiak, Rich Gannon, Kirk Morrison, Jason Horowitz, Eric Allen, Matt Millen, and myself. And that meeting's still going on, but I was able to take the elevator and get up here, and we are live on YouTube, our live stream inside the studio, and we're ready to roll. So we got a good show. Levi Edwards is going to join us. Eric Allen's going to come in and join us in hour number 2. I think Vinny Bonsignore over the phone. That meeting I was just with the coach and Kirk Cousins is private. It's for the broadcast. My only takeaway for you would be, Raider fans, get to your seats for the game. This is going to be a good one. We're going to have a good game. The coach is fired up. Kirk Cousins is fired up. And the Raiders have a lot to prove. And that's the focus of what we're talking about here right now, because the Raiders still got a lot to prove. And as I look at my notes here and I decipher through the notes and what I can and shouldn't say or would say, because I don't say anything I shouldn't say, I think there is going to be a really big test for a number of players in this last preseason game. This is a team that's still got a lot of work to do. They have a lot of work to do, and they got to get to work. So I think a lot of it's going to be special teams. You got to understand the special teams that had a bunch of penalties in Houston. That's with backup special teams players, not the guys who are going to make the roster and then play special teams. This is the guys who are kind of on the verge of maybe are making the roster or not and making some mistakes there. So we're going to see how that looks when we go into the Miami game and you got the full starting special teams. So that's a big takeaway for me, because Clint Kubiak cares a lot about special teams. A lot. I mean, enough where he's a really ball coach. He's a guy that's no frills. No frills. He's there to talk, and he wants the special teams group to get going. In regards to wide receiver, there's going to be some challenges. There's going to be some wide receivers called on in this game to step up and make plays in this game. I like that. I don't know how far they're going to push the ball, what the game plan is going to be. Most teams are pretty vanilla when they go into a preseason game. But I can tell that Clint Kubiak, coming off Houston and winning that game with the backups, with the second-teamers and the third-teamers, was excited about that. And now he wants to see some growth, wants to see everybody play a little bit harder. I talked to him about Traden Stukes and Darian Porter and their growth and their ability. As you know, Traden Stukes recently has been playing with the ones. So he has an opportunity to really get going here in the build-up to the Miami game. And Darian Porter, who's an excellent special teams player, I knew he was good. I didn't realize the coach respected him that much at that position. He's in a good situation here. And then with the rest of the edge rushers and what's going to happen. Oh, Mike Washington Jr., very important player. Very important player going forward because of the status of Ashton Jeanty. Not one person in that room, from Matt Millen, the legend, 4-time Super Bowl champion, Rich Gannon, the MVP, asked about Ashton Jeanty. That is an off-the-table topic in a good way. Okay, you're not going to hear about injuries. There's no trainers. There's no doctors in those production meetings here. The Raiders have a player who is currently injured. We don't know the severity of it, who plays a massive role with the team, and he's on the mend. That will not change in the broadcast, radio, or television, and it won't change in the media with Ian Rappaport, Jay Glazer, whoever you follow as an insider. But Mike Washington Jr.'s got a big role coming up here. He's got to get up to speed very quickly in his role. Outside the pocket, protection, picking up blitzers, all that. And he's been coming along really well. Coach is really happy with Fernando Mendoza. How could you not be? And I will tell you one thing that I talked about with Kirk Cousins personally, one of the questions I asked. He was asked about, Rich Gannon asked him about, the situation with him and, the opportunity to play and win games here. And then he talked about mentoring Fernando. And Rich has a lot to say. Remember, Rich Gannon was a backup, and then he became an MVP and an AFC champion and played in the Super Bowl. So when you watch, I always really enjoy when you hear a guy like Rich Gannon talking to a head coach. That is really cool. I love that. I even loved it last year when Gannon got deep with Chip Kelly. At the time, we thought Chip Kelly was going to be the answer. He was really excited. Everybody was excited about Geno. They won the first game. They went out and really looked good in that first game against the Patriots. And then the rest is history. But I personally asked Kirk Cousins a question that I wanted to ask him. And the question was, I said, I'm very impressed that you continue answering questions about Fernando Mendoza. I'm very impressed at how you handle this, I said, because not many quarterbacks even, he's a 14-year vet. This is year 15. Not many quarterbacks have ever had to answer the questions that Kirk Cousins had to answer. And I just told him to his face how impressed I was with that because I've been bothered by it. I've really been bothered by all the media that continues acting like this is their first rodeo and they never got a credential. I mean, how many bleeping times are you going to ask Kirk Cousins about Fernando Mendoza? How many times? You've already asked him it. Stop. It's done. He's the quarterback of the team, barring something crazy happening. And he's handled it brilliantly. And we all know that Kirk Cousins is going right to TV when it's done. He's going right to TV. If Drew Brees is getting his second or third chance on TV, Kirk Cousins is going to get a big opportunity because the guy just captivates the room. He walks into the room, shakes everybody's hands, knows everybody's name, and he's ready to get to work. So I was very impressed with that overall and what's going on there. So some of the takeaways from Trey Tucker, Jalen's got to get going. Benson has been really a big shining force at receiver in camp. He's got to take a new responsibility because they're counting on him to play well. And I think it's very interesting here what's happening and the structure of this team and what they're doing with the offensive line and what we're going to see on Thursday night. We're going to see a good football game on Thursday night. That's my impression without getting into any details. You're going to see a good football game on Thursday night with a team that really wants to build and do something special, with a team that wants to go out there and continue to impress. And then we'll see what's going to happen. Rich Gannon, Jason Horowitz, and I, before the meeting started, we were talking in depth about the Raiders have the first pick after cutdowns. They have the number one pick, like the number one pick in the draft until week 3, on getting players off waivers. Imagine the opportunity for the Raiders to go first, to pick number 1 overall in the entire league, to get a player that is on waivers and doesn't make another team. But as Rich Gannon educated me in the conversation, a lot of teams, when they know they're not going to be able to protect the player, want to trade the player. So they'll get on the phone and say, hey, man, we're gonna cut this guy. We're going to cut this corner. We know you need a corner. Give us a 7th-round pick. Give us a 6th-round pick before another team takes him and you don't get him at all. That's going to be very interesting to me. I've never heard people talk about that the way Gannon talked about it. Raiders are in an interesting spot. How many spots do the Raiders going to fill because they find 2, 3, 4 players on other teams who are waived, and the Raiders are first to pick number 1? It's kind of like a lottery pick because there's some of these guys who have played in the preseason and on preseason games who have put up tape and they're not going to make the team and they're okay. And they might be better than some of the Raiders' depth players, and the Raiders might be able to pick them up on waivers. I think that's an interesting storyline here to talk about next week. And the one takeaway also that I learned about this coach, Clint Kubiak, as I get ready in 2 weeks to start exclusively interviewing him every week, which you'll see that right here on Raider Nation Radio. You'll see it on TV on Saturday nights. I've been doing it since the team moved here. Is this coach wants production, period. He is not a guy, look, you can be whoever you want. You want to be Max Crosby and put out a record? You can. You want to be another guy and you got a hobby, you like cars, and you're on Instagram? Go for it. But you better be productive. You better be productive here with your skill set. And I like that. We're getting to know this coach more and more. I think this is a really special time with this coach because he's a head coach, and he's never been a head coach, but he grew up the son of a head coach. All right, let me get out of here. We got a lot of sponsors that we need to talk about, a lot of them. I am live from Raiders headquarters, and we are brought to you by Fletcher Azul Tequila. All the alumni are coming to town. They're going to be pouring some tequila, and Fletcher Azul Tequila will be poured everywhere where these alumni will be. So the alumni get in tonight. They start off on Wednesday. Thursday, they're at the game in the Winfield Club, as I said. And then Friday, they're at the Aces game. And they'll be all over town. And hopefully many of the alumni who like tequila will be sipping the lifestyle of Fletcher Azul Tequila. Levi Edwards is going to join us in studio coming up. Vinny Bonsignore over the phone. Eric Allen, hopefully in studio. And Isaias is with me. They're working on a player. They're working on a player for me. I told them I don't need the player live. I can take the player after the show and record it. So maybe we'll get a nice surprise here with the player live from Raiders HQ. JT back with you. Levi Edwards in studio on the live stream and on Raider Nation Radio. So big game coming up here against the 49ers. And my takeaway is there's still a lot of work to do building this final roster because we know who the starters are. How competitive do you think this is, this cut down, compared to the last 4 or 5 years since you've been here?
I think it's going to be extremely competitive, and honestly, every year it's pretty competitive. I don't think it's been any different this year than it has been any year. These guys are fighting for their lives, literally. They're fighting for jobs to stay in the NFL, make sure that their dreams stay alive for just another day. And so I started to notice a lot more, I guess, I don't want to say the word chippiness, but just a lot more aggression from those guys at the bottom of the roster fighting for those spots, those guys on that third, fourth team fighting for more reps, trying to earn more. And it's very noticeable throughout this camp, as it is every other camp.
What I'm finding interesting is I don't value special teams, me personally, the way I did 10, 20 years ago, when you had to cover the length of the field and you didn't play in a phone booth and you didn't have this enhanced kickoff. But not from what I've been hearing lately. They really want the special teams buttoned up. There were 5 penalties in that game. You cannot do that. And there was penalties before that, a kick out of bounds. I mean, this thing's got to get tightened up before the start of the season with a home opener. Special teams has got to be better.
Yeah, I speaking with Joe DeCamillis yesterday, something that he mentioned is the holding stuff. That's very noticeable, learnable. I think that's the best way to put it, is the fact that this stuff is happening in a preseason game. This stuff is happening in these practices and training camp. This is the time to get the mistakes out of the way. When it comes to holding and making sure that coverages are right and things of that nature, you learn now so you don't make these same mistakes in the season. But what he won't tolerate is things that are practiced every day that you shouldn't be doing, like the running out of bounds or the kicking the ball out of bounds. Things like that, that's like very technique. Things that we did in drills in high school You feel me? So he's really trying to get rid of those dumb mistakes. He has no tolerance for it. And I see this special teams unit. I really do truly believe that there's a lot of room for improvement there. And I think that Joe DiCamillo, he's really been getting on those guys a lot in practice. I noticed it. And I know that's just kind of his demeanor and who he is as a coach, and he's really fiery, that he's just going to naturally be like that. But I've just noticed over these last 2 weeks, he's been very, very, very hard on that unit. Even special teams units being like 25 minutes long at the beginning of practice, like it's something that they're trying to improve really fast, really quick.
Levi Edwards joins us. Tell us about Trayden Stukes, because he's been kind of running with the ones as of late. I think he is counted on to get his hands on the ball more because he did that in college. He hasn't made an interception in the pros, but we know what he did, and we have the tape from college. What is the difference between Isaiah Palomal and Trayden Stukes? Is it just very small and marginal, or do you see something where they can both fit in and play in multiple schemes?
They can both fit in and play in multiple schemes, and that's what it comes down to. They're very different safeties, and that's why you play them in certain situations. When it comes down to it, Trayden is more of your stereotypical coverage guy. He's a coverage specialist. He's a guy that is going to be able to do some things in single high, play deep in space, be able to make those open tackles and cover, be sticky in man coverage. And Isaiah is more of your longer, more physical box safety, the guy that can kind of come down and be really good against the run, really physical at the point of attack. Like, he's just that kind of guy, whereas Trayden is just better in coverage. And so it's one of those things where it just depends on what the down is and what is needed out of that play. So I think that there is room for both of those guys on this team, both of those guys to get snaps. But I asked Clint Kubiak yesterday, why is Trayden Stukes getting more reps with the ones? And he was very clear and blunt about it. He said he's around the ball a lot. That's all he said. No more further explanation. When you can get to the ball, make plays on the ball, you're going to stay on the field.
Yeah, Levi Edwards joins us. The only thing I would share, because I don't share anything from these production meetings, but he wants ball production. That's what he wants. He wants your hands as a receiver or a defensive back on the ball. You get paid for ball production, and I think that's a standard now. That I knew Pete Carroll, the Legion of Boom. I mean, his guys got their hands on the ball more than anybody I've ever seen in the last 25 years. It was LOB, the Legion of Boom. They were about ball production. That got lost here. I don't think they had the players or the scheme that they really wanted to have. Now I think they have the scheme, and they're trying to get the players. Talk about how John Spidek is now trying to fill the remaining holes with guys who can deliver ball production.
I think that they have the guys already in place for ball production on the defensive side. It's just doing it in games. I see them get interceptions, in games, not in games, but I see them get interceptions in practice outside all the time. It's one of those things where it's just not translating over to preseason action. There hasn't been a turnover. Well, there hasn't been an interception. There's been a turnover, Patrick Johnson forcing the turnover against the Texans. But it's one of those things where they really need to figure out more ways to win that turnover battle, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to win you games in the NFL. If you're a defense and you don't get turnovers, you're just not going to win games. You have to get the ball back to your offense, win that time of possession. It's very clear. Like, that's just easy. That's football 101 right there. And so getting the ball is just going to be so much more important for the defense moving forward, and that's what you're starting to see. You talk about Spidek and who he's trying to bring in. He's bringing in ball hawks. He's bringing in guys that can create turnovers, because that's how you win as a defense. That's how you win as a team.
Last one for Levi Edwards from the digital team. He's got a tremendous amount of inventory out there, a lot to read on. Go find him at Raiders.com. Give me, in a minute, one thing you have to walk out of the building Thursday night feeling better about. What do you need to feel better about Thursday night before the Miami game, which will be week 1?
I need to see what this receiving core can do. I think that's the biggest question. I kind of already know what each one of these position groups will look like or could look like going into the regular season. But there's still so many questions around that receiving room. And even Clint Kubiak kind of called him out, saying that we need guys that are going to be able to produce on Sunday, and he doesn't know if he has enough of those guys yet. I need to see these guys go out in the field and create separation, make catches on the ball. We can't drop balls. We can't we got to create separation. We got to be able to get open so Fernando or whatever quarterback isn't getting pressured because he's in the pocket too long trying to make reads. Like that's what I need to see. I need to just see improvement from that group as a whole. And there's talent there. You have Trey Tucker, who I don't know if he'll play. You have Jalen Naylor. You have all those guys, but you got to figure out a way to get that.
Thanks for coming from your office all the way to the pod studio.
Oh, yeah. It was a nice little brisk 2-second walk,
Levi Edwards, everybody. If you were on YouTube, you'd see him. You see how yoked he is. I don't know how he got a workout in today. Did you get one in?
I have not yet. I'll probably get one in as soon as we leave here.
Okay.
The shirt's just really small.
That shirt
this is just it's a very small shirt.
Good shirt. It's not a medium there. I think that's a good shirt on you. You're popping out. Your biceps are popping out, but you can only see that on YouTube. We're brought to you by the DeCastroverde Law Group. If you get injured in an accident, the Brothers Win, brotherswin.com. When we come back, Eric Allen's going to join us. We're looking for a player. I got 1 more hour to go. Tomorrow we are live. I'll do the show tomorrow. Q will do the pregame show, and I'll be on the play-by-play with Matt Millen and Eric Allen. 1 more hour to go, live from Raiders headquarters. All right, out of the gate, hour number 2 of the show, and we are live from Raiders headquarters, live on Raider Nation Radio, YouTube, and the Raiders mobile app. Pretty busy day today. I was down here in the building pretty early. We had a production meeting, the television team and the radio team for the broadcast. That was a lot of fun. I never take that lightly. Been in that room for almost 30 years. I've been in that room from time to time, especially in the preseason, my years of being the sideline reporter on TV, or my years now that I've gotten a chance to do the play-by-play on radio as Jason moves to TV. So with all that happening, we're pretty excited for this game. And from meeting with the coach, and you'll find out who's playing tomorrow, or someone will tell you or leak it out like a Schefter or a Rappaport. That's not my spot to do it. I'm here in the building. I had the ability to sit in there and find out a lot about this game, and we'll wait to see how the game plays out. But I'm excited for this football game. I'm excited for the alumni who are in town for obvious reasons. This is one of the biggest turnouts that they're expecting, so it should be pretty cool. And I'm invited to all that with my wife, so we'll be running around town with some of the alumni events, which is also going to be fun. And then we're ready to go. For us, what we're trying to do here on the flagship is we'll be off on Labor Day. We'll be off on Labor Day, and that'll be a Monday. And then we'll start our coverage counting down to the Dolphins that week. So the week that's coming up here, as we look at today, as we are wrapping up August, we have a game tomorrow on the 27th. We have a show on Friday, the 28th. And then we hit the month of September. We've got August 31st on Monday. And then the following next week is the ramp up. So it's the ramp up. It's kind of like the bye week. It's the bye week before the start of the year, which I think is pretty cool. Even though we're working here, it's going to be a little bit loose. And then the week of September 7th is when we go. So we're off on the 7th, which is Labor Day. And then that Tuesday through Friday, we start with all of our insiders again, all of our regulars, and we go balls out. And that'll be good. I'll have my coach interview every Tuesday with Clint Kubiak. That seems to be the schedule this year, and we'll have that ready on Tuesdays for you. Raiders will have that up on social media. We'll have it here on the radio. I'll be doing a TV show in this studio with Q Myers. Q and I will be together this year, which I'm excited about, and then the pre- and post-game show on game day. I'm also back with SiriusXM on Sunday nights, which I'm happy to announce, which is a really big deal for me because Sunday's my long day. We do the pregame for the Raiders, the postgame, and then I go 3 hours on Mad Dog Sports Radio Sunday night, my favorite night of the week. And I'll be doing 3 nights on Mad Dog, which is the maximum amount that I could humanly do. And then we got podcasts, live streams, and we have new membership packages on our YouTube feed at JT the Brick, as that's growing, and that's really growing well thanks to my sons for that. So when I look at this team, we're getting ready. We're getting very close to cut downs on Sunday. So the game will be Thursday. Hopefully no one gets hurt. Wow, I watched Hard Knocks last night on HBO. Did you watch that? It comes out every Tuesday. And the world champion Seahawks lost 2 players. Bobo, their receiver, who's a really good player for them, gone for the year. He blew out his knee at a joint practice with the Titans, and then they lost their safety the second round pick for them, a big-time player, I wouldn't say gone for the year, but he fractured his ankle. He broke his ankle. Now, we have an ankle injury that we've heard about here with Ashton Jeanty. I have nothing new to report on in regards to the status of that. And as I said earlier in the first hour, it was interesting to see that no one asked Clint Kubiak about it. Clint Kubiak's all ball. If he says he's on the mend, what that means is don't ask him again. But if you're a journalist at the podium and you want to be declined and you want to ask him the question, can I get an update on Ashton? And he says no, then it's cool you ask him the question. I'm not going to ask him the question. He already told me. But people want to ask and know about him. We do not know. We do not know what's going on, and we're going to wait to see. The great news would be if he's ready for week one. If he's not ready for week one and he's ready for the entire season, that's fantastic, considering what could have happened. So big storyline there. In regards to some of the other big stories around the NFL, this week was about Jed York and the 49ers. That's a big story because they're coming to Vegas. I would assume the owner of the 49ers will not be here. I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be here or not. I would assume that he wouldn't want to be in Vegas. But if he decided to come and start the process of getting back in, he could go ahead and do that. And there's a lot of other good storylines that are happening with college football. The NCAA defectors can't play for NFL teams in 2026. The NFL will inform its teams that any player who returns to college will be prohibited from signing with an NFL team this season. Adam Schefter is reporting. I think that's a big storyline also. Very important storyline as we're ready to go. All right, Vinny Bonsignore joins us as he does every week here on Wednesday. We appreciate that. Vinny, let's begin here with the Raiders. A lot of work for you as you're projecting the lineup here coming up for cutdowns. Tell us what you're expecting in this game with some of the camp battles.
Yeah, I think this is, one last chance for a lot of players to, establish roles, establish places on the roster, establish starting jobs, gain some faith and some trust in the coaching staff. So a lot of players that have an opportunity to put their best foot forward, and there's some players that need to put their best foot forward in this game without question. So I would expect that it's going to be an entertaining type of a game for the 49ers and for the Raiders, and an enlightening game for the Raiders as well.
Vinny, you've been doing this a while, man, covering the NFL, the Raiders, the Rams before that in the NFL. I mean, we got to wait for this game to be played and see what we're going to see. But overall, do you think this has been a good camp? Because we were together in Costa Mesa, and I said every day it wasn't good. Max destroyed the camp. The ball hit the ground on every play. Gardner Minshew was a mess. And whatever, they went there for a reason. I don't think it was a good camp. How would you judge this camp with everything you've seen overall, considering they don't have an elite number one receiver and they're breaking in a young secondary?
Yeah, well, I think the reason that it wasn't a good camp in Costa Mesa wasn't because it was in Costa Mesa or anything like that. They just had bad football players. They didn't have a good offensive line. Their quarterback situation was bleak. I remember talking to somebody about that, and they're like, it didn't matter who the number one quarterback was coming out of camp because neither one of them was going to hold on to the job. Both of them were going to have to play, which I thought was pretty telling. It's been completely different in this training camp. Despite what we saw in Houston, that's a fantastic defensive line. I'm not going to draw a whole lot of conclusions on the Raiders' offensive line facing those guys. I think that the offensive line has already looked way more cohesive and effective from my eyes than they have in the last couple of years. So there's that. I think the quarterback play has been elevated without question, whether you're talking about Kirk Cousins or Fernando. And Aiden has played well as well. I need to see more from the wide receivers without question. I think Brock Bowers is ready for an elite season, and Ashton, when he's out there, is going to be ready for an elite season. And I like the play calling, the scheme. So I think the offense, once everybody gets settled in and the Ashton gets healthy, I think the offense is going to be improved. I think the defense has some work to do, and there's a couple of reasons why. I think that we've seen some of the depth issues that they have on the interior of the defensive line, and their ability to kind of hold up against the run at the point of attack. I don't think that this is going to be a disastrous thing. People run with storylines. Will it be a strength? I don't know about that, but is it going to be their ultimate demise? I'm not going to sit here and say that as well. Like the linebackers, I really like the progress that the young secondary is showing, and I'm really curious to see how much better they've gotten from one week to the next, from week 2 to week 3. So all in all, I think it's been a solid camp for the Raiders. And, nobody was going into this with any expectations of the playoffs, of winning 10 games. It's more about progress and more about development, more about laying a foundation. I don't know how that falls on anybody's ears outside the building or within the fan base, and I can understand some of the trepidation and some of the frustration because it has taken a long time. But if you're going to do this right, you got to do it right. And no one in that building really has anything to do with what's happened over the last 25 years or so. This is their project now and their journey, and they're trying to do it the right way. And I think they are on their way to doing it the right way. Might not mean a whole bunch of wins this year, but I think they're being realistic with themselves and with the fans as they try to put the message out there on what this season is going to be all about.
Vinny Bonsignore is our guest. Vinny, I'm fascinated by this topic of the Raiders being awarded the number 1 pick when it comes to players off waivers. We're that changes week 3 of the season when it goes to overall record at that time. But I mean, I won't call it a lottery ticket because the Raiders got the lottery ticket with Fernando Mendoza. But after talking about this with Rich Gannon and Jason Horowitz, every team knows that the Raiders pick number 1 on the waiver wire, and other teams know that the Raiders need receivers or maybe corners or other players, and maybe those teams that might have a player that the Raiders might need, they might be calling other teams looking for a trade, a 6th or 7th round pick, or might be calling the Raiders for that. Do you think the Raiders in this very unique situation, which they haven't been in for a while, are going to make sure they have the ability to get multiple players off waivers who are better than some of the players on this roster?
Yeah, I don't know about multiple, but I don't think there's any doubt that you're probably going to see some action on the waiver wire with them. They don't get the first pick over and over and over and over again. It doesn't work like that. But right at the opening bell, they will. So they do have an advantage in that regard. And I think for the first X amount of weeks of the regular season, they'll be able to have be able to monitor that and have an advantageous spot on the waiver wire at that point as well. But it's going to have to obviously make sense. It's going to have to be somebody that they believe is better than what they currently have on their roster, whether it's at the back of their roster or whether it's a starting job. It can vary between those two extremes, considering of where they are with this roster. But I know that whether you're in Houston, seeing some of the staff of the Raiders there in Houston, and they were there to watch themselves, but they're also looking at other players, from the other team, getting a look at maybe it's a young defensive lineman that is in a numbers crunch with the Texans, but that you could times that by 31 other teams as well. So the pro personnel department, I think, is very active right now, and they've got their list, I'm sure. I think they have a pretty good idea at this point of what certain players out there they may covet, what they're dealing with in the numbers game on their particular teams, because not everybody gets cut because they can't play football, and it's often the case where that's not the case. There are players out there, good quality football players, that are going to be in a up against it because the position groups that they play in on their particular team are stacked, and so there's going to be the ability to find some good players. Now you're going to have to make some hard decisions. Do you want that to be a running back to replace Ashton Jeanty? I think Mike Washington, hopefully, will continue to open up enough eyes that they don't have to do one of their, a high waiver wire claim on a running back. I would think that would be more of a wide receiver, more of an interior defensive line, a position that when you look at it, when everybody's healthy, they need a wide receiver. They need interior defensive line help. So those are the positions that I would be looking at first and foremost. And also, with the young cornerbacks, how comfortable will the Raiders be in terms of starting the season with a young secondary and a young cornerbacks? I think they like the potential But do they feel like, we'll be able to roll right out of the gate with some of these young guys, and we'll be okay. There'll be some growing pains, but we feel like that's going to pay off, just getting those guys on the field and developing and trying to win as much as possible while also trying to develop some young guys? Or do they feel like, you know what, not quite ready to maybe start the season with that youthful of a secondary? Maybe there's somebody out there that will be available on the waiver wire, or even in a trade that can give more immediate help.
Vinny, last one. What is your reporting and the California Post reporting on Jed York? An uncomfortable situation for Roger Goodell, considering something similar but different went down with Robert Kraft, and he wasn't suspended at the time. The Niners are in Vegas, presumably, tonight for the game coming up here, and Jed York is in a really difficult situation. The organization is in that. How do you think the league is going to cover this? Because these internal investigations, once the NFL get involved, they could take some time.
Yeah, and it feels kind of cut and dry here on this one because he's already admitted things and pleaded and all that kind of stuff. So this feels like pretty cut and dry, and it does affect his the code of conduct that owners are work under as well. So I would imagine that there's going to be some penalty for this. It's just an unfortunate situation, a total lapse, obviously. In judgment. I can't pretend to have been, in his brain and trying to figure out why he was doing what he was doing or thinking what he was thinking. But obviously it's an unfortunate situation for him, for the 49ers, and for the league. And I would imagine that when it's all said and done, there will be some sort of penalty that he has to pay. Whether that's a suspension, whether that's a fine, I'm not quite sure. But I would imagine the NFL is going to levy some kind of a penalty.
Thank you, Vinny, so much. We'll see you at the stadium. I know you got a lot going on. We'll catch you tomorrow. Thank you.
All right. I appreciate it. Take care.
All right. Vinny Bonsignore, he's kind enough to join us. He joins us every week, and he'll be ready to go when the season starts. As I've told everybody, we have insiders that we use every week, and we have insiders that we use every other week because we like to mix in also some national voices who jump in and talk around the league. Not just Raiders. We talk more than Raiders. We talk the NFL when the NFL begins. So we appreciate that. If you want to get through, first time I have the opportunity for open phones, the rest of the show, 702-365-9200. All week long and all year long throughout football, we are welcoming Flowing Tide. What a great pub tavern group that we're thrilled to be a part of. They have several locations on all sides of town, in the north, south, east, and west, a location near you no matter where you are. The food is better, so much better than typical bar food. It's actually restaurant quality, and it's high level. It's fantastic. The drinks are top shelf without top shelf pricing. The staff at every location makes me feel like I'm a VIP. Watching sports there is fun. And it's just a better game day experience. We've reached out to Danny, our new partner, to see if we can help in any way with the Reno fires. Flowing Tide has a lot of locations also up in Reno. The owners are Vegas-born and raised and treat everyone like family and friends. Flowing Tide, we appreciate their proud partnership here on the flagship of the Raiders, Raider Nation Radio. All right, when we come back, I'm waiting for the door to open. Who's going to be behind the door? Is it going to be Eric Allen? Is it going to be Rich Gannon? I don't know yet. They're not going to leave me hanging, are they? I'm in the building today, Isaiah. What are we doing? Let's go. We got some content here. 702-365-9200. What I always tell you callers is you're the only callers in the global Raider Nation who can get into headquarters today with an opinion. Take advantage of the format.
And and we know that all those guys are going to play.
All right, that's Clint Kubiak, who I met with a little while ago. We had our meeting here ahead of the Niner game that's coming up. And as I say, I can't read the room with him because he's not like Antonio Pierce, right, who's coming in and just loud, but very good. Antonio Pierce only had great things. Pete Carroll was a lot more, how would I describe it? Just, it's like Grandpa Pete. He came in and loved everybody, and everybody was there, and there was a lot of small talk with him and me, and this guy's all ball, and I love it. I love all ball. I'm a hardcore sports fan. I don't need a guy getting up there and doing crazy stuff. And with the receivers, I'm sensing I don't know if it's true. I'm sensing that he wants these receivers to be better. He needs guys who can make plays. Anybody in this league can get open in zone coverage. Anybody. If you're in the NFL and you're playing in a zone as a receiver and you're running against the zone defense, you can get open. How do you get open when you're double teamed? How do you get open? Can you get open? Can you fight for the ball? Kirk Cousins had a lot of cool things to say about Jack Bech as a fighter for the ball. He was familiar with Jalen Naylor because he played with him in Minnesota, and he also went to Michigan State, where he went. So there was a lot of things there where Clint, you look at Clint Kubiak and we talked to Kirk Cousins. They're both offensive people, and they need these receivers, I think, to play better. I'm a big Mike Mayer guy. Throw the ball to Michael Mayer. Let the league adjust to Michael Mayer. Let this league look through the first 2 to 3 weeks and say, oh, my God, Clint Kubiak has drawn up a lot of stuff for Ashton Jeanty and Michael Mayer. We better guard them because they're getting the ball a lot. And then there'll be adjustments made. Let's get out to Ben in Denver. Ben, I'm happy my show's on in Denver as I'm pulling teeth in Vegas to get Vegas woken up. But you're in Denver and a Raider fan. Go ahead.
Hey, JT, love the show as always. But no, you're huge out here, JT. There's actually in my neighborhood, there's like 2 Raider fans, and we all listen to you. So, I mean, you're pretty big out here. But anyway, just a little, just to touch on the quarterback situation. I mean, I don't know. I know that Kirk is, he's had 1,000 snaps, and I know he's coming in wearing the chains and all that's really cool and all. But we have a guy who just won the national championship, is going to be on a 3-year rookie contract. He rolled through all the, Miami and Ohio State, all these big-time schools. I mean, I'm still hoping for some crazy news that Mendoza will start and Kirk Cousins will be there to if he gets in trouble, help him out from the sideline.
Wait a second, but hold on, Ben. But hold on. Let's have a discussion. Kirk Cousins was not brought in to be the backup. He was brought in to be the starter. That was why they signed him. And he's getting $10 million from Atlanta, and the Raiders stepped up. If they didn't want him to start and be a backup, he wouldn't be here as a backup. Aiden would be a backup or some lesser costing quarterback. They're spending a lot of money, and he's getting a lot of money from 2 teams to play and compete while they wait for this quarterback to get ready. So I don't think he came in here. I know he knows he came here to compete, but I think we all know that Kirk Cousins was brought in as the starter. That hasn't changed, has it?
I guess not. I guess I just feel that obviously as fans, we're not there. We can't see any, every practices or whatever. But I just feel at this, Kirk Cousins is 37 years old? And you got Mendoza, who's 22, who has a better arm, who's more athletic. I just think here's my dilemma with it. If let's say Kirk Cousins plays the whole year and Mendoza now comes in, let's say next year in 2027, now we're just kind of wasting, let's say, a guy like Linderbaum. We're just going to, he's on a 3-year contract, so we're just going to say, we're just going to waste 1 year, not waste, but kind of. We're not going to start Mendoza, our future franchise quarterback.
Yeah, I wouldn't look at it this way. I appreciate the call. Thanks a lot for checking in. I wouldn't look at it that way. I really don't. If you want to all get worked up and all get worked up about Mendoza not starting, you can. That's what sports radio is based on. Sports radio is based on all of that, where you can complain about who's going to start or not. That's the essence of sports radio. We're here to complain. We're here to blank and moan. We're here to point fingers. I think I'm pretty good at that. I like in-your-face sports talk. I don't like these shows that I have to hear all the time. I have to hear them, by the way. I don't have a choice that are doing 10 minutes. 10 minutes because they can't talk sports and their program director says, don't talk sports. Talk 10 minutes about what you're doing with your wife in Chicago over the weekend. I want people to call this show with the caller like he just did and what he said in Denver. He wants Mendoza to start. I'm good with that, and we had a back and forth. And the back and forth was fair. The back and forth was fair at the point of attack where I don't think Mendoza should start because I've been around this organization and I know that Tom Brady is making a lot of calls here, and Tom Brady is more comfortable with Mendoza being broken in. He wants Mendoza broken in a certain way. Look at this. Look at the Hall of Famer, everybody. Look at the Hall of Famer. I know he knows how to turn the mic on because this is his studio. I mean, we should have his name on here.
Yeah, right.
There we go. I had to jump out of the Kirk Cousins meeting a little bit early to come up here and do this. He came in with some energy, huh?
He did. And one of the questions I talked to him about was, when you talk to Coach Kubiak, and he's so mild-mannered and, really, but the practices, the meetings, everything has this intensity to it. And he was saying, yes, the meetings, there's definitely a message throughout the meetings, message throughout OTAs that is carried through this organization. And it just seemed like he's the perfect person for this spot right now. And he understands that.
One of the things I wrote down in our notes, and we keep our conversations private in these production meetings, but I think we can mention this because we knew it, ball production.
Yeah.
And I knew you were like, ooh, I like that. Because you were a ball production guy early in your career, late in your career. And he was talking about guys who need to get their hands on the ball, not only defensive backs, receivers.
Right.
What does that mean when you hear ball production?
Yeah, and he was specific at that because he understands to be a efficient offense, yes, you have to run the football and the offensive line is important, but when it comes down to taking advantage of the running game, you have to have receivers who are going to be able to attack the ball and be comfortable in those situations where there's contested. And that's the one thing I think this year that Jack has done such a great job at is really did well with contested catches. And that's kind of his body physique and body style. And now that these guys have been in for a year and 4 or 5 months, you need to see why they were drafted, what the coaches saw in you when they were evaluating you. Those things need to happen in practice so we have enough confidence in you during the game to be able to pull the trigger.
Hall of Famer Eric Allen is our guest live from Raiders headquarters. So when I jump in and I look at what this team's trying to figure out offensively, this is an offensive wizard play caller coming from a father who won Super Bowl 50.
Yeah.
I mean, he talked about his brothers. What's going on there? What do they have, like 11 guys in the family?
Everybody's in the league, too.
Everybody in the league. He's talking about his brother in San Francisco. He's got a brother in Dallas. But he doesn't mess around. I think he realizes, at least I got out of my conversations with him, that this roster isn't fully complete to his vision, which could take another year, another draft, and another free agent class to have everything in place. So until the receivers are finally the receivers that he wants forever, what was your takeaway on this offensive line? Are we finally here with the 5? Because last year we were in week 1, week 12, week 16, and we didn't know who the 5 was.
Yeah, I think there's still room today, or tomorrow I should say, for someone to cement themselves, not at the tackles, and definitely not the center. I mean, the center is legit. I mean, you talk about, Kurt, and everyone comes in and says what a great job he has done at center. I think those guard positions, it's really, really close right now. And I think that's one of the reasons why he wants to see that unit kind of go a little bit. And it'll be interesting to see what happens because we know he wants to run the football. And that coming into a football game, if you have that in your back pocket, JT, as you know, things could work really well for this football team.
Eric Allen's our guest, so let's get to the Hall of Fame. I talked to you about it privately, but you go back this time. Now you're on the couch. Now you're on the stage. You don't got to worry about the speech.
Yeah.
What was it like behind the scenes? All the little things of getting on the golf carts where it's Ronnie Lott. Oh, there's Eddie DeBartolo. There's Joe Montana.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Okay, so last year, as you know, I mean, you're just thinking about your family and friends and getting back and making sure the events are happening and the people are, coming into town when they're supposed to come in town. So my wife, Lynn, did a great job with Callie here at the Raiders. They just did a phenomenal job. So this year, it was really about kind of absorbing and taking in like, wow, the year went by so fast, but we're here with all these players that I used to wear their jersey when I was younger and sit down and watch their games. So it gave me an opportunity to kick back with, like, Charlie Joyner. I mean, not a lot of people know about Charlie Joyner, but
love Charlie.
Yeah, just a great gentleman, and just to kind of talk to him about football and how it's changed. And, you know, if you think you still can play, oh yeah, I think now that's the one thing. Everybody I talk to still thinks they can play. Like, and I'm not sure if you were back in their youth, but like right now, they think they can play. Just a great conversation. Rod Woodson. I learned Rod Woodson went on a recruiting trip to ASU, and it was his favorite school.
Wow.
The reason why he didn't attend is because the guy who took him on his visit was like a tight end and took him to some kind of boring movie. Like, you're in Tempe, Arizona. Like, and you spend 3.5 hours at a movie theater with Rod Woodson. I mean, come on. So it would have been David Fulcher, who was like a 3-time All-American, Rod Woodson, myself, and Anthony Parker, who played, 14 years later. So these are conversations we're having, and it was just amazing. The night of the dinner, we're all kind of in line to go in, and of course I'm with Mike Haynes and Randall McDaniel, ASU. We're all kind of hanging together, and we're like, okay, we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, and it's gonna be us. And all of a sudden, the room kind of goes silent, and we look around, and it's Jerry Rice, and he doesn't have a gold jacket on. He just hopped off the airplane, and he has like a black jacket. But I remember hearing people talk in the NBA about getting together at, all-star events and things like that. And everybody's like talking, and then it's quiet because Michael Jordan comes into the room. And that's the kind of effect that Jerry and, of course, Joe Montana, they came in together. It was just kind of like, wow.
The Niners had a big turnout.
Huge turnout, which was great. Which was great. Rodgers' family, amazing.
And Rodgers' number is going to be with yours.
Yes.
Right there.
Yeah.
It was recruited by the Raiders or played later,
yeah,
which I think is great. You also shared with me that you really bonded with Ray Lewis.
Yeah.
And the reason I bring up Ray Lewis is I think Lawrence Taylor's the greatest defender of all time.
Me
but
too.
I think Ray got into the discussion of the
really
Mount
did.
Rushmore,
yes.
right? The Mount with Deacon Jones and
without a
all
doubt.
the greats, Reggie White,
yeah.
former teammate. What's it like being in Canton with Ray?
Yeah, and he's because he played the linebacker and his story about getting that last scholarship at the University of Miami. I mean, he was a guy who was lightly recruited, and somebody fell out in like the last week or so. So they called Ray Lewis up, like, "Hey, man, we have one left. Do you want to?" Yeah, we have one left, and he takes it and becomes just this phenomenal player. And last year, when I went on stage, he was there. And he kind of gives me this big hug. And I'm like, well, hey, Ray, and I'm thinking, because we played, against each other twice, and he was just happy I got there. But this year I got the background. And he was undersized as high school player. He wasn't the Ray Lewis that we see now. And so he fell in love with my style of play. And I was like his guy, growing up, high school, college, I was his guy. And he said, man, you just don't know what your style of play meant to me. And before I really knew, you were always my guy. But when I got to the league, I had an assistant coach that told me that how you prepared and how you studied. And I adopted all those things. And so when I got to a game and it was, against a tough opponent, I had already done my film prep, already done my off-season preparation on this player or this coordinator. So I knew it was coming. So when that center, had his hand on the top of the ball and usually has it on the side, I knew he had it on the top because he had to get it to the quarterback faster to pull. So I'm going to meet him in the hole. So all those things, you never know who you affect. And that's the one
story.
And
you were able to take it all in because
this
it's
year.
your first year going back
Yeah.
as a member, and it took all the weight of the world off of you.
Just to kind of kick back, and I know we're probably running late on time, but the Super Bowl this year, when they're announcing the teams in San Francisco, the Super Bowl last year in San Francisco, I was late to the hotel to go to the dinner where they were going to announce the Hall of Fame. So I get to the hotel, I'm late, I'm like, oh man, I can't get a ride. So I see one of the Hall of Fame staff, and I'm like, hey, can I get a ride? And she's like, and I turn around and I see Drew Brees, and then I see Larry Fitz, and I'm like, she's like, yes, Eric. These are you can't call anybody. So I saw the guys there in the hotel. I rode on the bus with them, talked to them about, what the year is going to be like. And, of course, Drew Brees lives in San Diego. And I was able to just kind of talk to them. And they were so excited. And it's the same kind of thread, I think, that binds all of us as we really love the game of football. And we wanted to leave it better than when we found it, if that's possible.
With a minute to go, I'm happy you brought up San Diego. It just jogged my memory. Billy Ray Smith passed away, and they had his celebration of life, and it was a who's who. And he was a hell of a player.
He was.
I was a good football player and broadcaster.
Right.
In San Diego was on Sports Talk Radio.
Yeah.
I know you crossed paths with him over
and
here.
JT, I think you will appreciate this, is we needed guys like that to show us that there was a way to take all the experiences of our football playing career and then go to another environment and still be able to tell people and show people that great passion that we had about football, we could utilize that in a different way. We need guys like that
100%.
Because
he was just
Irv Cross was my guy.
Doesn't get much bigger than that.
I'm watching television. He's doing the games. So that gives a little, like, hey, man, after this game's over, I can still talk about the game that I love, that's been so critical for me and my family, and just in another way.
Eric Allen, everybody, you just got 20 minutes of radio gold, and we got the game, and we got the alumni tonight.
Yes. Yeah, I'm excited, man. I hope Lynn's not over at the slot machines.
No. I think my wife's running some errands today. So the slot bandits could be around.
Yeah, that's right.
She'll be great. Hey,
I
with the
love
Hall
you,
of
man.
Fame, I love you too, man. That's Eric Allen, everybody. We'll come back and wrap it up. That interview was brought to you by Remy Martin, proud partner of our show. When we do X's and O's, it's about Remy Martin, proud partner of our show. The Cointreau mixes with any margarita you have. We'll wrap it up on the flagship of the Silver and Black.
I would say that he has done a phenomenal job of, growing up really fast. I think he got here, we drafted him, you come to the NFL, there's a lot on your plate, and then we throw all these new protections at you, these new fronts and blitzes and routes, and I think that he's a guy that understands that we are counting on him, and he needs to get up to speed quickly, and he's been mature about that, and he's going to keep working.
JT, back with you as we continue. Clay, you can jump in and tell me who was he talking about that? I just jumped into that late talking to EA. All right. Mike Washington Jr. Thanks to Isaiah. Appreciate it. Thanks to Clay Baker. Thanks to Eric Allen. How cool was that? We got a nice run with Eric Allen here. I should be doing an interview here after the show. It was a good day today. As Eric said, our alumni are in town tonight. Our valuable alumni are in town, and they're all over town, and they're going to have a great time. We got a big event tonight. And I will say this, too, because they're my proud partner, 8 Cigar Lounge. Let's roll on this, everybody. 8 Cigar Lounge is entertaining our private event tonight for our great alumni, so that'll be a lot of fun. My wife always reminds me, 1 cigar, but no, when I golf, I have 2. I have one early on the front nine and then one with my buddies after the round when we're having a bucket of Modelo's. And tonight I will have an early cigar, a 6:30 cigar. And then I will have one later into the evening. But it can't be a late night because we got the game tomorrow. And the game tomorrow will be at Allegiant Stadium. Q's coming up next. Always listen to Q. He's got a big show lined up. And I'm sure with all the action coming in on San Francisco coming to town, I'm assuming they're here. They traveled here. I don't know exactly where they're staying. But the 49ers, when they travel, the 49ers do a pretty good job at bringing their fans to town. The sale of the Seahawks went through. The sale of the Padres went through. Busy week when it comes to ownership and some of these teams around multiple different leagues here. Multiple different leagues, a lot of ownership news. And the other news that's coming up in the NFL is Tua to start in the Falcons preseason finale. No starter has been named yet. So technically you could say that it's the Falcons that haven't named the starter and the Raiders. But we're assuming that, obviously, Kirk Cousins is going to get that opportunity. But that's where we stand there. So there's a lot going on around the league. I would have wanted to get into a deeper, longer discussion with EA on the lack of preseason and the fact that the players don't play much from any era. But I think what it's coming down to me more and more, there's too much money at stake. You know, players can get hurt. We're seeing guys get hurt at joint practices. We're seeing them get hurt in preseason games. But back in the day, players were very important to teams. They were making no money. They were making no money in the 70s and 80s. Even the stars were not making the money that they should have been making. So if some guy got hurt, yeah, it was bad. You lost your great player for the season, but you didn't lose $54 million or $37 million or $29 million. So I think when you look at the ramifications of some of these injuries and what players' contracts look like, they just want to keep it out. If you watched Hard Knocks last night, I'm really impressed with Mike McDonald. And I'm trying to find a way for a podcast or an interview coming up on how to describe what I'm seeing here behind the ropes of the Raiders and what I'm watching on Hard Knocks with the Seahawks. And I'm seeing a lot of similarities. Clint Kubiak was just in the Mike McDonald system. And I didn't know much about Mike McDonald. I thought he was kind of a quiet guy, too, like Clint Kubiak. But going behind the scenes, you hear him talk. He talked about one of his dear friends who passed away, and he was teared up in front of the players. And then you saw Mike McDonald, in a matter of 4 days, lose two significant players on his roster to injury, and it deeply affected him. And then the other thing they showed on Hard Knocks last night was he had his leadership council up in his office. I should ask. I don't know if Clint Kubiak copied that and has a leadership council. Like if he had a leadership council here, it would be Max Crosby, Kirk Cousins, right? You'd have Colton Miller up in his office discussing the team in general. Mike McDonald's doing that. And Clint Kubiak, part of his tree, which is his dad's the biggest part of his tree, a lot of it is Kyle Shanahan, Mike McDonald, the places where he coached in the past. This coach has seen a lot, and his family is all about ball. So I can't wait to see him coach as the head coach. And to see last week in the tunnel, I put out the video. You can find it on my Twitter when he came through and all the players were coming into the locker room, mostly 2s and 3s, guys who came off the field, and he high-fived them all, and he won that game. That was one of the better things I've seen. It wasn't the end of the world type stuff, but it was one of the cooler things that I've seen, a coach getting his first ever win and how important it was to him. All right, so we got the game tomorrow. We'll do a show tomorrow. I got a show lined up before I head to the stadium. Q will do the pregame show. He'll do a great job with that. Then I'll be on the broadcast with Matt Millen and Eric Allen. Thanks again to Clay Baker, all of our proud partners, Isaiah, everyone behind the scenes here. Alexandra, who sets this whole thing up. I mean, she's a wizard with all this from the Raiders headquarters and podcast studio. And that's it. I'm out of here. I got to drive from deep Henderson to the mean streets of Summerlin. That's my commute. You know, it's my commute, Isaiah. It's not walking distance. I got to make sure that 15 is clean and the 215 is clean, so I can get home and have a dip in the pool, a cigar, and a Modelo tonight. Have a great rest of the day, everybody. Thank you so much for listening.